memory is forever frozen in my mind. I was 32 years old and I had already been through a year of medical testing, procedures, exams, and finally, a specialized neurologist had pinpointed my diagnosis. And I remember showing up at his office thinking that it was going to be no big deal. I had been experiencing numbness down my right leg for the past year, but other than that, nothing seemed really serious. And I remember sitting in his office and exchanging niceties, and he would always ask me how my kids were. And then, as matter of fact as possible, he looked at me and he said, "Julie, you have multiple sclerosis." And I'll never forget that moment because it was so surreal. My mind could not process fast enough this news that he was sharing with me that would forever change my life. And I remember still sitting there with a dumb smile plastered on my face because I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't process the emotions and the weight of this diagnosis quickly enough for my body to react. I remember driving home that day feeling that this was so surreal. It seemed as in a moment's time my life had completely changed and yet not really changed much at all. And I'll never forget that night needing to go home and tell the news to my husband that not only had I gotten a diagnosis and not only did I have an illness, but my illness was chronic and incurable. That it was one of the most difficult nights of my life as I laid in bed at night and held my manly, never show emotion husband as he sobbed in my arms and cried himself to sleep. Many of us don't like the word chronic. It carries some type of negative connotation to it. And in fact, the term itself means something that is constantly reoccurring or something that is persisting for a long time. And it's usually spoken of in terms of a medical condition, a medical illness, just like my MS. It's called chronic because it doesn't go away. It's here to stay. I hate being defined by the word chronic. It's one of the reasons why I often don't speak about my MS. It's the reason why I struggle to do this video series. I'm afraid that if I own it or I speak to it, that it will become who I am. And I don't want to be remembered as someone who suffered with a chronic illness. I don't want that to be my identity. It's not what I want to be remembered for. I started thinking, what do I want to be known for? And that answer was simple. I want to be known as a woman of joy. A person whose joy is so contagious that it spreads to everyone she comes in contact with. I want to be a mom who can experience joy even amidst the monotony and struggle of motherhood. I want to be a wife who practices joy even when her marriage or household situation is less than ideal, which, let's be honest, is most days. I want to be a friend and a ministry leader whose joy positively influences those around her. I want to be a vlogger who uses her gifts and passions to spread joy. I want to be an MS patient whose joy identifies her more than her diagnosis. And lastly, and most important of all, I want to be a daughter of our Heavenly King, a person who lavishly receives and emulates joy because my identity is in Him. So that's who I want to be. What about you? You know, the word chronic, as I said before, is often defined as something related to a medical illness. And maybe you have a chronic illness just like I do. Or maybe your chronic is somewhere else. Maybe you have chronic anxiety. Maybe you have chronic worry. Maybe you have chronic fear, chronic monotony of your life, chronic depression, chronic hopelessness, chronic busyness. Define what it is for you in your life that is chronic, that is constantly reoccurring, that is seeming to never go away. What is that for you? What if I told you you could experience chronic joy? A kind of joy that persists for a long time or is constantly reoccurring. What would it be like if this could coexist with your chronic struggles, or even maybe replace them? What would it look like if you were a person so overflowing with joy that you could fully embrace the beauty of every moment? And what if those around you couldn't help but notice and be impacted? Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? I want to leave a legacy of chronic joy, not chronic pain or illness. No matter what happens in my life today or tomorrow, I can. And you can too. I hope you'll join me to discover what it looks like to live a life of true joy. Psalm 51:12 says, "Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me." I love this word restore here because it refers to something once being there, but is now gone. And maybe you feel that way. You once were filled with joy, but somewhere along the way, you have been tainted by the effects of sin and this broken world we live in. Whatever your situation is today, I'm here to tell you, you can get your joy back. In fact, you must get your joy back. Jesus came so that we would have full and abundant life. So let's claim that today. It's the reason why he came, and it's what he wants for your life. Until next time, I want you to be thinking about this. If you're not experiencing chronic joy in your life, why is that? Identify some of the joy thieves in your life. I'll be unpacking this more in the episodes to come, so stay tuned and stay joyful. Thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate you listening in. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and tell your family and friends. I'm really looking forward to going on this journey to rediscover joy with you.